According to speedrun.com, Super Mario 64 is the 5th most speedran game of all time, only being beaten out by Minecraft, 2 Roblox games, both called Doors, and Subway Surfers? How do you speedrun an endless game? Whatever. Within Super Mario 64, there are 5 distinct categories. 120 stars, where you try to 100% the game while getting all 120 of the game's stars. 70 star, where you try to beat the game without the use of the BLJ at the end. 16 star, beating the game by getting 15 stars and then abusing the MIPS clip to bypass the 30 star requirement at the end to get the second Bowser key. 1 star, where you skip the whole game and only get the submarine star. And 0 star, a run so indescribably complicated that I see no reason to attempt to dwell on it further. Now, at the end of my last video, I said that I was going to be shooting for a sub 1 hour run with 31 stars. Now, you'll notice that I didn't mention 31 stars for a category because there doesn't seem to be one anymore. The discovery of the 16 star run kind of made that one irrelevant. But I'm happy to say that not only did I achieve my sub 1 hour run, but I absolutely bulldozed it by some miracle, turning my 31 star run into a 16 star where I finished the game in 36 minutes. Here's how I got here. Speedrunning isn't just about tricks, it's also about movement, so I wanted to see what was actually the best. There are 3 main ways to move around: running, long jumping, and diving. To see which is generally the quickest, I set up a test in Big Boo's haunt to see how fast they could clear a straightaway. As you can see from this test, the long jump is definitely the fastest, with dive jumping not too far behind, and as expected, normal running snails in comparison. Now, even though the long jump is just a bit ahead, I do prefer the dive jump. It feels significantly more satisfying to pull off, and I think it's faster than the long jump if you time it right when the dive starts and you're leaving the ground. But I do tend to see top runners mix the both of them. Now to what makes a 16 star run possible: the MIPS clip. I've had a lot of difficulties trying to perform this. It involves using MIPS to clip Mario through the door, and then grabbing MIPS from inside the door's geometry to move him to the next room. Now, try as I might, I could not get this to work, not even once. But at some miracle, I found an easier way to do the MIPS clip that's just a bit slower, but it's still faster than just plain out doing a 31 star run. This alternate trick involves placing MIPS right in front of the center of the door, then running back and then diving into MIPS to push him through the door, where you can move to the other side normally and then punch near the door until you grab him from within the geometry, where you can then edge clip through the star door as you normally would. The difficulty of this trick is hitting MIPS during the arc of the dive, so you don't end up grabbing him, but instead bonking your head on the door and then pushing him through. As for the angle, I found it easy just to enter Mario Cam in front of the door or use the corridor on the right where the toad is and then straighten out last second. I admittedly felt really cool when I discovered this, though even though I thought I had made a brand new discovery in speedrunning, I did realize that this alternative MIPS clip has been around for quite some time, although it's just a method I've never seen used in a run before. But it's still cool nonetheless, since it's the only reason why 16 stars is possible for me. Just a side note, if you're enjoying my content so far, you should try to beat the world record for how fast you can subscribe to the channel for more awesome content on whatever I feel like making that week. Anyway, here are a few other tricks and other useful things that I've learned to speed up my runs. There are many tricks that separate the men from boys in speedrunning, and for Super Mario 64, Cannonless is that trick. With that being said, I'm only a man about 30% of the time with this. The actual star for the blast away the wall is one that's loaded into the level all the time, and those with the keen eye can see the split in the geometry where the wall would normally break. So by falling into the wall in a certain way, you can trick the game into making Mario grab the ledge, pushing his hitbox into the star, and then having to skip the use of the cannon altogether. Now, I know the setup, and I can get it within a controlled environment with save states, and I'm sure I could get it in a real run, but it takes so long to retry if you fail, and there isn't really a slower backup way to get this without just using the cannon, so I end up just going for a different star most of the time. Another thing is beating the bully in Lethal Lava Land. Normally, it requires you to punch it repeatedly, inching it closer to the edge with each punch. However, if you ground pound as he's charging you at the edge, he will charge underneath Mario, and then the ground pound will push him off the edge. And you can even do this near the pillar to be closer to the star. Shifting Sandland has honestly become my favorite part of these runs, because it's the first level that truly makes me feel like a speedrunner. Now, when you enter this level, you can triple jump dive over this hill, and then long jump over to the pillar, only to then long jump off of it onto the pyramid, where you can then triple jump up the side to get the star on top of the pyramid. And even better, you can do this setup to get the Klepto star if you need it. The triple jump is actually one of the more useful things in Mario's kit. Did you know that the third jump in a triple jump is completely unaffected by slopes? Yeah, this is what makes these kind of skips possible, because otherwise the momentum up the slopes would come to a halt and you'd likely fall down. But because of this, you're unaffected, and this works with pretty much every tall slanted surface in the game. In my last runs, Hazy Maze Cave probably had the worst stars per minute ratio. There were just a lot of stars that just took a while to get. However, that is no longer the case, as now I've gotten it to where they're probably the 3 quickest stars I have access to. All of them start with Mario taking a left at the start to get to this big room with the pit in the middle. The first and most straightforward star is long jumping up to the alley where the boulders are falling, and then wall jumping to get the stars you would normally. Next, in the same room, you can angle yourself and align Mario with these textures on the floor, and then side hop wall jump onto the platform. And then you can just long jump to the platform that has the star, which normally requires going through the toxic maze somewhere else in the level. Now, this next one involves Mario falling through the floor. You start by going through the door and then starting the elevator, and then having Mario fall down to the floor before the elevator reaches you. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have Mario push the wall somewhere to the right of this texture on the wall. Then when the elevator comes down, it'll push Mario through the floor and into the big cave where Nessie is. The reason you want to be to the right of the texture is so that way you don't risk falling into the water, and also so that way you're just closer to the star. So with all that, there is a route that I found that was the fastest. Now, the way I found this out was I did every single star that didn't have any prerequisites like power-ups, and then I did them to see which of them were individually fast, and then put a route together using that. So to start the run outright, I was able to figure out how to do a Lakitu skip. I can't do it consistently, however, luckily this is one of the many tricks that don't actually punish you for messing up. In this case, instead you just have Lakitu come say hello and then you go on as normal. So, as usual, I go into Bom-omb Battlefield, where I grab the Chain Chomp star. Even though I can't perform a bomb clip, this is still the fastest star in the level, and gets me the 1 star I need to access the others. Then, to take out the slide star, I try to go a little bit slower to take longer than 21 seconds, so that way I don't get the fast star. During my testing, I found that somehow I was faster when taking the slower route, and I couldn't explain it, so I just wasn't going to mess with it. Next, to Whomp's Fortress. The Into the Blue star would normally require the use of a cannon, but by angling a side hop wall kick, you can get up there without the use of the cannon. After that, we climb up the fortress. You can triple jump over this oddly shaped ledge to save some time, but I have a hard time doing it consistently, so I usually just save it if I mess up by jump kicking up the slope to still get there faster than normal. When up there, I beat King Whomp by ground pounding midair so that way he phases through me to save me a bunch of time, and then I climb up the fortress again to do some tricky movements to save some time when getting up the tower. I'm now 5 stars down, and now I'm off to Cool Mountain. I start with the baby penguin star, sliding down the mountain to return the child. When you're falling, you want to hit the stone texture near the mom penguin, so that way not only she takes the baby faster, but also Mario doesn't waste time by getting stuck inside of the snow. Next, the wall jumping star. You start by jumping off of the map, and then doing a midair kick to put Mario safely on the platform, where then you can do the triple jump as intended, or you can side hop wall jump onto the platform. I'm more comfortable with the latter, but that's ultimately up to the runner. And then finishing up with the slide star. With 8 stars, I can now enter Bowser's Dark World, where I did the level normally. I like to avoid the dangers of falling off of these moving platforms by long jumping into a big floating platform in the middle to get there a little bit more safely. Now, down to the basement, I head straight to Lethal Lava Land, long jumping over to the red coin puzzle to get a very fast star. Then, off to the Rolling Log star, which I can normally brute force my way into, but sometimes I take too much damage and I just have to roll the log as normal, and then I head off to Hazy Maze Cave. First, I get the emergency exit star by side hopping onto the platform and then long jumping across the pit. And then I did the elevator clip glitch into Nessie's cave for yet another super fast star. And lastly, I grabbed the wall jumping star past the boulders as intended to wrap off this level, and then grabbing the toad star before heading into Shifting Sandland, where I long jumped across the desert and then triple jumped onto the pyramid to get the last of the 15 stars that I need. Next was to catch Mips the rabbit. I do recommend just loading up the game to study the exact path he follows, so that way you can more consistently grab him. After that, ignore the star he drops and then go perform a Mips clip. I used my diving method because it's the only one I can do, but you're welcome to use either. And then clip through the star door as you normally would, and then swim through the water level. Actually, here's a little fun fact I learned. In this corridor right here, the game slows down considerably despite little happening on screen. The reason for this is that the level is too big for the Nintendo 64 to load all at once, so the game loads half of it, and then, while you're blind, loads in the other chunk of it, hence the sudden slowdown. After that, I finished off Bowser a second time, only to go back into the water level, that way I can exit out, as you can't get out of this alleyway normally since you used a Mips clip. Now to perform both BLJs. Now, I know how to do this trick. I've done it several times, some quick, some took a few tries, but for the life of me, I cannot figure out what I'm doing wrong for this to be so inconsistent. It can't be the speed of my button spam, because I've mashed the hell out of it before and still failed, but then I'll go casually tap it and gets it right on the first time. So it has to be something else, but for the meantime, this is an unknown factor in my runs. So, with all of that, I entered the last level, beat Bowser, and then finished Super Mario 64 with the time of 36 minutes and 47.28 seconds. Now, with that time, that safely puts me in 1,613th place between a 36.39 from Nerve Stew and a 36.56 from Lazemi. I have never heard of either of you two, but hello, I plan on beating you both in due time. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to go from here. I know I'm going to continue running, but this might be my last video on it since I'm fresh out of ideas on how to avoid repeating what I've already said. But hey, look at you. You've made it to the end of the video and in a world records pace no less. Thank you for tuning in, subscribe for good BLJs, and I will see you all in the next video.